What up, everybody? It's Chris Roscoe. This is Operation Moksha, and I actually have something kind of personal I want to talk to you about today. And it's the masculine shadow. So, anybody who follows me may have noticed that I did a bit of a rant last night about this new Gillette commercial. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's basically a commercial like urging guys to do better and, get rid of toxic masculinity and all that shit, which is cool. I support it. And any of you who saw the rant know that I actually also fucking hate the way they went about doing it. And so this is something that I've tried to communicate for years now. And it was really upsetting for me to try and communicate because it seemed like 1 out of every 25 people understood where I was coming from, if even that. And so it was like I was hurt and I was upset. And I was being misunderstood and misrepresented, and nobody was really understanding where I was coming from, partly because I was too upset to really vocalize my real truth and my real convictions clearly. And also because my inability to do that was triggering other people's traumas and shit. And so it just turned it into this thing where no one could really hear each other. And I've more or less spent the last year of my life kind of alone trying to deal with this, trying to figure this out. Because I had someone in my life that really mattered to me. Someone who stood on the opposing side of this argument. And my inability to communicate clearly and lovingly and compassionately ultimately played a large role in me no longer having this person in my life. And so the last year and a half of my life, I've tried to temper my own experience and be really loving and understanding to the people that stand on the opposite side of this issue. And it's not that we really stand on the opposite side of the issue. It's just that I think there's certain people that can't really understand where I'm coming from. And so I wanted to take some time to really explain where I'm coming from. Because a lot of times when people hear that I don't like the way that men are being talked to, or that the way, toxic masculinity or things like that are being addressed, specifically to the male audience. When people hear me say those types of things, what they hear is that I don't think there's a problem. What they hear is that I think that everything's fine and that women don't need help. Or that we aren't in need of a major cultural revolution. And that's just not true. I know we're in need of a cultural revolution. I know things have to change. That's why I do the work that I do. I've literally dedicated my life to creating that cultural change. And the thing that I think people don't understand is what it's actually like to be a toxic man. Because from what I can tell, there's a few different kinds of people. There's obviously the women that don't have experience being a toxic man because they're not men with enough testosterone and masculinity to cause problems in their life and wreak havoc for them. Maybe some women are, I don't know. But if you haven't had this experience, it can be very difficult to understand. And when it comes to guys, it's like there's 3 different kinds of guys. They're the guys that have had relatively good lives, that have never had to conquer any real darkness. And I don't mean depression. I don't mean anxiety. I don't mean self-doubt. I don't mean the vanilla shit, I mean real demons. Stuff that scares you, really scares you to your core. There was a time in my life that I thought I had a moral obligation to the world around me to take my life, to save the world around me from what I was becoming. That was real to me. I thought I had to stop myself from becoming a monster because of what was inside of me. And so there's guys that have never had to experience that. And then there's guys that have it to a certain degree and they can repress it without any immediate major consequences, right? For them, it's just a matter of, just don't do that stuff. plain and simple. And they can't really understand why this messaging would be difficult to someone, because for them, it's so easy. It's like, oh, you just don't do that stuff, obviously. And then you call other guys out when they are doing that stuff. Like, of course, it's simple. And while that's cool, it would be really cool if I never had to experience those things, or if they were so small that I could repress them with negligible negative impacts. I guess that'd be kind of cool. But I wasn't afforded that option. And there's a lot of people that weren't afforded that option. And so I want to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, of the kind of guy I used to be. So I had serious rage problems. I was just about as toxic as you could get. I was the type of guy that had 3 girlfriends at the same time, and none of them knew each other or knew about each other. I was the type of guy where a guy would talk shit from another school, like in high school. I was in high school and he was at another school, and he would talk shit. And this is an actual story from my life. I would have my mom drive me to the school, not knowing what I was doing, thinking I was going to say hi to my friends because my friends went to this school. And what I'd actually do was get out of the car after having threatened this kid, on AOL Instant Messenger, and getting out of the car and going to beat him up at his own school. That's the type of guy I was. And I would do those types of things relatively frequently. Anytime anybody said anything about me or messed with my girlfriend or anything like that, they got on my hit list. And a lot of people were afraid of me just because of how fucking fierce I was. And I don't mean that to brag. Like, to a certain degree, that the ability to channel that rage has helped me tremendously. I still have that level of ferocity, but I don't use it to hurt people anymore. I use it to chase my dreams and to overcome my challenges and to move past my obstacles. Like, that ferocity and that killer instinct and that ability to just tear shit apart is still a very big part of me. I just use it better now. And the reason I'm telling you this story is to let you know, like, how shitty I used to be. I used to go into rage fits where I would black out and suddenly come to, and I would have, like, destroyed everything. Not physically, but I would just tear down everyone around me, and I would suddenly come to and not know what happened and break down crying because I was scared and I was hurt and I was confused and I didn't know what was happening. And I cheated on a girl who didn't. Obviously nobody deserves to be cheated on, but this was like a really nice person. Her name was Vanya. She was a really kind person that loved me and just thought I was great and was really good to me. And I just hooked up with some other girl because there was a new punk chick at school. And it was like, obviously you go for the punk chick, especially because she was super hot. So, and then when I realized that I'd hurt that girl and how I acted in the face of it, I was like on the phone with her, like telling her that if she broke up with me, that I'd kill myself. Like, as toxic as you can get. I'm telling you, like, I'm not over exaggerating. And after I really understood just how bad my behavior was and how much I'd hurt people and that I was going to continue hurting people if I didn't do something about it, when that really became clear to me, I did what, whether consciously or not, ads like these and this types of narrative, I did what this type of messaging tells a guy to do in the type of situation that I was in. You put it away, right? You say, these are the bad things. I'm not going to do the bad things anymore. I'm going to do the good things. And it's a moral choice. It's an ethical choice. It's an honorable choice, but it's just not a healthy choice. And I learned this the hard way, because that level of raw, destructive energy that I was living my life from, I internalized it. And it's like, yeah, it's good that it wasn't aimed at the world around me anymore. I wasn't hurting people anymore. I wasn't taking advantage of people anymore. I wasn't tearing people down anymore. But I was destroying myself from the inside. And it sucks because it's like when you give up that part of yourself, that masculine side of you, even if you haven't learned how to use it well, and its current representation is toxic, nobody teaches you how to turn it into the healthy version. They just tell you to put it away and act better. And what happens when you do that is it gets mad and it turns against you. And mine basically almost ate me whole. I'd put it away in an attempt to be good, to be a good man. I wanted to be a good man. I didn't want to hurt people anymore. And what ended up happening was all that rage and all that anger and all that pain that I had put away eventually grew out of control. And I started having these really violent visions in my head of like hurting people that I cared about in violent ways. And it's really scared me. And that's why I thought I had a moral obligation to end my life. Because I saw what I thought my mind was deteriorating, and I thought I was going down a really dark path that I wouldn't be able to turn back from. I didn't know turning back was a possibility. I didn't know integration was a thing at the time. And eventually I learned how to integrate it, and eventually I learned how to do anything with it. But the thing that really strikes me is because a lot of people don't know what it's like to actually be this toxic and not know what to do with it and be living in a world that doesn't get it and is constantly telling you to just act better without giving you any kind of understanding as to what's making you the way you are in the first place. Because the fact of the matter is the pressure I put on myself to be a good person is what almost turned me into a monster. And so when I say that these things are damaging, I don't mean that we shouldn't be standing up for women. I don't mean that we shouldn't collectively come up with a better means of communicating and coexisting and cohabitating. Like I don't mean to reject those things. I really don't. What I mean to reject is a narrative that doesn't take at all into consideration what the healing process is actually like for these guys. Because, and I mean this with all the love and respect in the world, my genuine experience of this is that ads like this and a narrative like this is meant to make certain people feel good. And like, that's it. Where it's like, if you're a good guy and you've never had to harness these demons, or if yours are negligible to the point that you can control them, then it's like, oh, like, I can do it. Why can't you do it? Why are you upset about this? You must be sexist. You must be blah, 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 if you have a problem with this, because I'm cool. I don't have a problem with this. Why would you? It must be because you're blah, 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 blah. And even if so, to a certain degree they're right, they're not helping, because these ads aren't meant to make the good guys good. They're already good. The point of these ads is to tell the guys that aren't good to change, right? Isn't that the whole point? And if the ads aren't made for those guys to help them, and if they unconsciously and unintentionally make their symptoms exponentially worse, then it's like, I don't think I'm the one who doesn't care about solutions. I think everyone else is unaware of what solutions actually are. How many of you have ever actually talked to a genuinely toxic person or someone who used to be toxic? How many of you have ever watched documentaries about what a converted neo-Nazi actually looks like, or what they go through, or what gets them to change? How many of you have actually talked to anybody who's healed through these things and figured out what worked for them and what helped them and what helped them become good people? It's not these things. It's not look at how bad you are and look at how good you could be. Because yes, sure, maybe they're not saying that to all men, but they're saying that to the men that are doing these bad things. And the men that are doing these bad things, when they hear that message, it will make it worse. It will at least make them not listen to you, right? How many times has anybody coming to you with that kind of an attitude ever actually brought a positive change in your life? Even when you really needed it. If someone comes to you with like that kind of condescending attitude, you shut down and you go on defense. And so I don't think these ads are meant to actually change the minds and the hearts of the people that are actually out there doing these things, and doing these things because they're suffering. I don't think these ads are made for those people. These ads are made for everybody else who doesn't have to deal with those problems so that they can feel good about themselves. and feel like they're a part of a solution. But the solution is not to insulate the good people and help them feel good about themselves. The solution is to really understand what drives people to do these things in the first place and create a culture that will unwind it and rewire it so that we can all be healthy and express ourselves in positive and collaborative ways. So when I get mad and when I get heated and I start cursing a lot and I say all these things, it's not because I hate feminism, it's not because I hate women, it's not because I'm misogynistic, it's not because of anything like that. It's because I've healed from being one of those people, and I know what it takes, and I know what makes it worse, and I know what makes it worse when I see it, and I can't stand it. Men kill themselves 4 times more frequently than women. And a lot of the time, it's because of this pressure, because we live in a society that tells us to be softer and communicate our feelings, but rarely ever gives us an opportunity to, and rarely ever rewards us or even encourages that behavior in any kind of meaningful way. Generally, it's like, oh, you guys should man up and be like me and express your feelings. I don't know if you know anything about vulnerability, but that is not how you invite someone to be vulnerable. You don't tell them that, like, you need to be vulnerable so that you can be a good person and so that you can stop hurting people. That is just simply not how you invite someone to share their vulnerability and their pressure, because it's pressure that makes people act this way. Pressure to be good, pressure to be, to make all the money, to have all the women like you and all these things. Like, it's no mistake that men's rights movements and incel movements are starting at this time. This is a natural and predictable response to this type of rhetoric, because those are the guys you need to change. The incels are the ones doing this weird shit. And like the male, like some, not necessarily the male rights activists, but the guys that are doing the like hollering and all that shit, it's like, you're gonna make it worse. They're just gonna see you as a bunch of weak idiots and that like just can't handle them. And so they're gonna do it more. And so the point I'm trying to get at here is, I'm on your side. I am on your side. I want to see the same change you want to see. I want to see collaboration. Anybody who knows anything about me or my work knows that integration of opposites, specifically including masculine and feminine, and harmony between the two, is extremely important to me. And collaboration in a world of free people is why I do everything that I do. It's at the heart of everything that I am. And so I'm with you. I'm on your side. It's just, I think I see parts of it that other people don't see. Because the people that tend to agree with me and be really grateful for the things that I say are people that have had to conquer real darkness and real demons and have had to overcome this shit in a world that doesn't know how to handle it. So this is where I'm coming from. I don't intend to be, loud or aggressive or anything about it. But I get frustrated living in a world that categorizes me as the bad guy when I'm really trying to help. And I'm trying to help in important ways that I think could really move things forward. So I hope that if you're someone who used to see me as the enemy, or maybe still does, I hope that you can see a little bit of opportunity for collaboration here. Because I want to work with you. I think that your side of the story, where it's like, behaviors have to change and like we need to create a safer environment for women now. Like, yes, absolutely. But we can't go about doing that in a way that actually creates a more unsafe environment. We have to think about tactics. Just a good intention simply isn't enough. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And like I said in one of my previous videos, the road to hell is paved by people who couldn't face their shadow. And I am that shadow. I know that shadow. So help me work with you. If you want this shadow transformed so that we can all feel safe, let me, the man who's lived through it, tell you how to do it. Let me give you the rules of how this shadow works. Let me collaborate with you so that your intentions can meet valuable tactics that will actually change the hearts and the minds of the people that we need to reach the most. Help me help you. I see you and I as on the same side, but we disagree on tactics. So let's find the middle ground. Let's work together. Let's love each other. Let's actually create the world we want to see. I guess that's it. I don't know that I have anything else to say. This is really vulnerable for me. I've never communicated this quite this way before. I didn't know how. But I've been in LA where I don't really know anyone for the last year and a half. And so I've had a lot of time to think. I've had a lot of time to meditate. And like I said, like the love that I have for people that disagree with me makes me want to be fair to them. So I guess that's it.